Hi YouTube. Today I'm going to be talking about the importance of wild edibles and mushrooms, but first I'll just tell you my cinnamon rolls were awesome. I had two little ones and a bigger one, the regular size, and then now I'm done. I had 16 of them, and Doug's trying to eat up some of them, and I might put some in the freezer, I don't know. Or my horse might get some. Depends. But anyway, and then today I made some pickled spears and some chunks, dill pickles with no garlic or nothing like I did before. And I think I'm done making pickles now. And then I chopped up a zucchini and some poblano peppers and other veggies and threw it in a pot, and I've got it ready. I'm gonna like make a stir fry later, and some little chunks of beef I'll cook on the side. And I'm thinking about maybe making rice too. So that's what's going on in my world. Aside from the rain, oh my God, this has got to be like the wettest summer in Minnesota history. I think I'll have to check that out, but it's just poured today. We had hail, and the thing about it is, too, the weather's been a little cooler, but then it warmed up again, and now we've got mushrooms growing again. That inspired me to talk about wild edibles in your area. No matter where you are, there's groups of people that forage for wild mushrooms, and it wouldn't be a bad idea to check it out and see if you have groups in your area. They'd be more than happy to help you identify what is edible and what is not. And there's field guides. I've got one, North American mushrooms, and they're very helpful. They tell you like even the size of the stem, and there's gills, or if there's not gills, what type of mushroom it might be. It will not hurt you to learn what is edible and what is not around you. Like we've got this stuff called oh yeah, now here I go again. I'm going to tell you about something, then I forget it. It's called parslane, and it tastes kind of like cucumbers, but it's higher in vitamin C than even strawberries, which is 10 times higher in vitamin C than an orange. So, I mean, to recognize these, and they grow in the cracks of like concrete in the cities. So, to know what's around you isn't a bad idea. Even if you're in the desert, there's different types of mushrooms that would grow on like bulbs and or roots of trees and different cacti you can eat. Know your country. Know what's going on. Even sagebrush, that's sage. In the early like sagebrush in the west and the southwest, you can eat it in its younger stages. You can eat it the whole time. And no matter where you are, the whole part of a evergreen, any kind of evergreen is edible. A rule for thumb for the mushrooms is just take a tiny little piece, I mean a smidgen. Just see, you can't even see it. Just take that itty bitty bit. Usually it'll smell buttery, and you'll know that's, and if it looks god awful, it probably is. Like if it's purple with yellow spots, that, or black, that might be your first indication that this is not a good mushroom. But if it's white or yellow or beige, or there's like morels, but there's false morels. Those ones are tricky. Those are they grow kind of oblong, and they've got holes in them, and the stem can be hollow, and you got to cut them to make sure there's no bugs. You wash them and whatnot. Um, but I mean, like the round button type meadow mushrooms and oyster mushrooms that grow on trees. There's only two different kinds in North America that are poisonous on trees. And 9 times out of 10, well, 99% of the time, it's not. So if you take just a little tiny speck of that mushroom, put it on your tongue, it's not enough to kill you. If it feels like, wait 10, 15 minutes is what they say in these guides. And if it's numbing your tongue, well, you probably don't want to eat it. But, and then, spit, clear your mouth. don't swallow it. If you're unsure if of the type of mushroom, like say now if the power goes out, all the food supplies are gone, what are you gonna do? Are you gonna go out in the woods and look for a mushroom which is like very high in protein and most of the vitamins that you need, you know? And you can take some of that and parslane and other wild edibles that you find around, pine nuts from pine cones, um, and literally make a salad or a food that you can eat that is so full in nutrition you would never even have to hunt or fish. Can you start a fire? Do you have a flint? I mean, these are things you might want to ask yourself. I can start a fire with absolutely nothing but a stick. But if you can't, you might want to ask yourself, how adept am I if things go down? Who's going to help me? Who's going to care? Because I'm going to tell you what, when everybody is out there foraging for their own food, if you're not going to be eating good. And you can't depend on everybody else in the world. Or do you want to be the person that they're depending upon? Think about this. Like right now, I have cattails, I have Jerusalem artichokes, which is called the poor man's choke. This time of year, there's burdock root, which tastes like asparagus. I have asparagus, I have rhubarb, I have squash growing, but I mean, different, and I've got all kinds of things I've canned. I can dry stuff, I can smoke stuff. How prepared are you if the lights go out forever? Who are you going to depend on? You going to go to a FEMA camp? Seriously, are you? Because probably the first thing they'll want to do is give you a shot of some kind of stuff to make you submissive. I don't trust the government. They gave me Morgellons. So I have big reason I'm not going nowhere. They can't make me. They'd have to kill me, literally. And that would be okay too, because I have faith that God will take care of me. And I'm not afraid one bit. As a matter of fact, a lot of times I'd welcome it, you know? So, I mean, I was thinking with all these mushrooms around, and I'm allergic to mushrooms, but if I have to eat them to survive, I would. I would just have to eat less, very little less, but at least I'd be surviving. But I'd probably well, I'm allergic to wood too, so pine nuts and most nuts I'm allergic to. So, I really would have a hard time aside from the fact that I'm an excellent fisherman and I can hunt, I can lay snares, trap, that type of thing if I have to, you know. We do have ammo for a rifle, and I do have a wrist rocket, slingshot. I can make a slingshot too, um, to be able to do things, or even spear, you know. I can make a bow and arrow. You can use a bow and arrow and a string and bow fish. So, um, what can you do? To help yourself? Can you do anything that's valuable for anybody else in a time of need? You know, what are your skills that will be needed in that kind of time? With no power, what can you do? And who cares if you can do it? You know what I mean? Um, are you valuable to society? Learn something. I would suggest find a group in your area and just go out once with them and find out what's around you. It's important. You can't depend that things are going to continue the way they are because this world's too crazy. It just can't. people are getting up in arms, so to speak. They're sick of it, you know. So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I do know more than that too. I mean, there's all kinds of things around me that are edible. Um, uh, Ferns have these fronds on them. When a fern first starts growing in the spring, it's kind of got a curl on the end of it. If you cut that curl off, the whole rest of the plant's going to be okay. But those curls on the end of a fern are edible, any kind of fern. Um, okay, let's see what else. Every part of the cattail is edible if you're in a low lying area. If you're in a rocky mountainous area, there's polyporous mushrooms on trees if you don't have a lot of moisture. Like I say, there are the bulbulous ones. Most roots on most plants are edible. I mean, like I say, if you take a little tiny touch of anything and spit it out, you're going to know within about 10 or 15 minutes whether something is edible or not. But wouldn't be a bad idea to find out who's around you and what they know. And if you have Native Americans around you or the native people of a land, they're the ones that are going to know. And the old timers, of course, are most likely going to know the most, you know. So, let's see. Well, here in my state, well, on my property, I planted rye, so I have rye. And right across the road from me, there is wild rice. Um, there's cornfields galore, but they aren't going to be planting them, not with no tractor. But I've got a storage of seeds that I've been saving from different plants, and if something will grow. But I'm thinking if there's low light, if there's some kind of catastrophe, mushrooms will probably be considered like manna from heaven because of their protein content, you know. Even in drier times, there's different types of mushrooms that will grow early in the spring and late in fall and into the winter. There's winter mushrooms too that literally grow in the snow, in ditches and that type of thing. Puffballs, different types of puffballs are edible. There's ones that get about the size of a softball, and you can slice them like a steak. In the spring, you can find them. Um, there's ones that are edible till they get dry, and then that's why they call them puffballs because you can smash them and the powder goes all over the place. Well, at that time, they will make you sick because they're old, not because they're not edible, but it won't kill you, you know. So, like I say, learning what is around you, you know. Um, Probably wouldn't hurt to learn how to fish if you don't know how. Um, there's worms in the ground, and you can dig a worm and you can fish. You don't have to worry about the minnows or anything. You can make um, uh, like for fly fishing, you can make your own lures. Um, I've used corn to fish or bread or even caught um, sunfish on like a little piece of a stick on on a hook. All kinds of weird things, you know. Because if the fish are hungry too, they're going to be biting hard, you know. But I probably won't be reduced to eating anything like insects, you know, for my protein or any kind of vegetable. I'm sure there's enough to forage right around me at all times. There's wild garlic. and horseradish. The leaves are edible too. Um, let's see. There's wild carrots. Let's see what else. All kinds of things. I mean, I could go on and on. I have witch hazel that grows in my yard, so I have stuff for uh, bites or poison. I've got willow trees that are aspirin is made out of willow. You can literally chew on a willow twig if you have a headache, and your headache will go away. Um, like learning your medicinal plants, yeah, that's a tongue twister for me, um, isn't a bad idea too. Like, what can you use to take care of yourself? Like pine tar. Pine sap is really good for any kind of bug bite for most people. I wouldn't probably use it myself because of my allergies, but somebody else, and if they were cut open or something, I'd get some of that pine sap right now and put it on them. There's mullein leaves. They look like a yucca plant when they grow, and they have yellow flowers. Now, the flowers, they're not poisonous, but they're like heroin. You can literally make a tea out of the flowers and pour it in the water, and the fish will be paralyzed, and you can just scoop all the fish up. So you really wouldn't even have to fish if you know about the mullein. But the mullein plant leaves, they're huge. They can be used for toilet paper. They're very soft. They can be used for baby diapers. They have antiseptic properties. You can clean wounds with it. I've got them all over my yard. There, like I say, there's burdock, um, which is really good for indigestion, and the burdock roots are edible. Um, let's see, I can go on and on. I'll think of some more. Just think, what do you have in your area? Oh, my irises, the iris bulbs are edible, and so are the flowers. Every part of the violet, and I've got violets all over the place, they're edible. There's a flower here called the trillium. Trillium roots and the leaves are edible. There's a plant that's for medicine is called the colt's foot. Um, it's round and it grows in kind of swampy areas, and you can dry that and use it for antiseptic, or you can smoke it. Um, let's see, there's another smokable plant too. Well, sumac can be used in different, like the berries, but you got to be careful. So that's something you'd want an expert around to see, like the quantities to use of things. And I'm trying to go through my mind in the woods and around. Uh, um, irises are another flower that are the roots are edible. Um, the tiger lily, the orange ones, they grow in the wild. They look like a trumpet flower, kind of. They look like a trumpet, and they'll close. Most lilies will close at night and then open during the day. Every part of them is edible. Uh, let's see. Well, of course, your wild berries, and there's another thing. Um, chew it a little on your tongue. And then spit it out and wait a little bit. Did it taste good? Did it hurt you? 5, 10 minutes later, you're gonna know, you know, if it was a good one or not. There's wild nuts, like we have hazelnuts and black walnuts, and a lot of North America has pawpaw fruit. You might want to know, and even as far north as Maine, so you might want to get familiar with that. Sort of a cross between a mango and a banana. Um, let's see what else. There are wild apple trees, a lot of them. If you go by train tracks, a lot of times, just about, maybe 25 feet or 100 feet away from a train track, you'll find an awful lot of apple trees from the people that were laying the track. They would plant their seeds, they just put them there by the train tracks. So that's kind of a good place to look for apples. Um, let's see. I don't know in different countries, but in America there is. Just about 4 miles from my house, there's a couple of really beautiful apple trees. For from that reason, we have plums and let's see what else is wild. Choke cherries and all kinds of berries galore in the spring. The cherry choke cherries are in the fall. Cherries and most pitted fruits you harvest in the fall. Um, but there's wild fruit trees all over the place. Um, walnut, black walnuts. Um, I have one, but it's struggling because Doug kind of damaged it, and then my horse did too. But it might be okay someday, maybe. But there are ones around. There's a hazelnut tree about 150 yards from me. Um, mm, there's watercress around creeks. They're little tiny round leaves, and they grow kind of on a vine, and they'll be like a head of hair almost growing like that. Little tiny round things. If you've ever had watercress in salad, that whole thing is edible. There's wild mints that grow, peppermint, spearmint. Did you know there's no such thing as wintergreen? You have to mix peppermint and spearmint to get the flavor wintergreen because they're two different leaves. And it's not even a hybrid, it's literally two different types of mint. Then, speaking of mint, we've got nettles, which is edible. Um, let's see, there's quite a bit in the mint family. We've got wild lettuce, which is also an opioid, but when you cook it, it's just like dandelion greens. You want to dandelion, the whole thing is edible. You do want to boil it a couple times to get when it starts, the water starts getting clear, then you know it's ready to eat because when you eat it just green, it's well, you can eat it green in a salad, but you don't want to put like if you took dandelion greens and violet greens and some parsley and made a salad out of it, um, it would be good. You could even throw like an apple and some pine nuts in there. You could even cook it all like that. So, um, let's see what else. If anybody lives close enough to me, I'll surely walk around and show you things so you can identify them. Or, like I say, I really urge you to find a group of wild edibles or mushroom hunting people around. Type it in, like if you live in Pennsylvania, I know some people out there, look, yeah, or the UK. I know you got mushrooms. There's mushrooms all over the world. If you live in Texas, find out your wild edibles, your cacti, your bulbs by trees. There's literally a truffle that grows in Texas and um, Arizona and New Mexico. It's just like the black truffles or the white truffles that they have in Europe, only it's over here and it grows by the roots of trees and bushes down in creek bottoms and that type of thing. Even if it's dry, that's where you're going to find you'll be closest to water. If you go to dig and you want condensation, you can dig a hole and use a plastic bag and a cup and literally collect enough water for you to survive. I mean, it wouldn't be a bad idea learn the stuff around you, you know. There's different kinds of willows just about all over the world too, and the whole thing is edible. Most trees, you can eat most trees and the leaves and whatever. If you had to survive, you could literally, well, I've made pine needle tea, and it doesn't taste like it smells. It tastes kind of nutty. You can make teas out of wild strawberry leaves, wild raspberries. You don't have to even have the berry to dry the leaves or just even put them in a salad. Like there's so many stuff. It's incredible, you know. So learn your area, please. Let me know if you do. I mean, look up a group and just talk to them and see if anybody's willing to go out walking with you for one day, couple hours. Learn something, know your area. I'm urging you because I have a feeling that the money system is going to collapse and people are going to be really in trouble. Don't find yourself in trouble. Be prepared, you know. So, I mean, I had to be a lot of my life. It's just the way I was raised, but, um, and to take care of my kids. But I'm urging you to do something in your area. And then in a time of need, you might know something somebody else doesn't. They might have something you don't, and you can trade because the barter system is going to be a big deal. And the more you know in a time of need, the more valuable you're going to be, the more stuff you'll have, especially when it comes to eating and surviving. This is one thing besides water and food. You know, those are um, the air we breathe. I was going to say the one thing besides the air we need is food and water. So, learning how to take care of yourself in hard times is not a stupid thing. It's probably the smartest thing right now you could do for yourself. Learn how to start a fire, learn how to get water, and learn how to get at least one source of food because if you don't, you might find yourself in hard times, especially if you're in the city. Look up parceling, learn how to identify it, you know. Look in the parks, look on trees, look for mushrooms. Learn. It's not going to kill you to learn something. Please. So I'm imploring you. Please do something to help yourself. Okay? I love you. That's why I'm talking about this. So, all right, everybody. Peace and love from Pine City, Minnesota. Please look into this. Just one little time, one little bit might mean the difference of life and death. Seriously, so for you. So, and you know, they say God helps those who helps themselves. Yeah, if you don't try and you just sit there and you don't even try, I mean, you can get a book from the library and take a walk and learn a couple trees in your area. What were they used for? Or a couple of types of grasses, or, you know, um, a flower, a bush, a cacti, you know, please. Just tell me you did something or you do something. I'll be happy. I love y'all. Have a good night or day wherever you're at, and thank you for joining me. Peace out, everybody.